morning, everybody, and thank you very much, Wagner, Christina, all the group here. I had this wonderful and very interesting, challenging week also with you to present you in a marathonic way the interaction in the Mediterranean, and I'm sorry for the speed they had to put into these presentations, which I'm actually trying today for the conference, and I was in touch with Wagner for the last year about it. I propose to bring something from my research field, this very specific one in the last 10, 20 years. And I called it Marble Art and Architecture in Ancient Israel. But I put a subtitle, which is the History of Material, because I would try in this hour, which I have at my disposal, to present you marble through the different ages, through the different periods, as a material which is actually very, or rather new in this area, and we'll see it in an original place, and as well as its development, its evolution through the different ages. That's from the one side. I organized the material, I tried to organize it in order to put it into this frame, the time frame, according like a symphony. You know, it's a kind of ouvertura. I have four chapters, and the finale. So I will try to keep them in order to have the music. It's a pity that we don't have background music for it, for marble music, or like hard rock music, actually. It's very good for this kind of material. I brought this first slide, as you see here. It's one is a very nice photograph from Jaffa, from the city of Jaffa, the Mediterranean, from 1910, showing two guys sewing a marble column. So this happened in the beginning of the 20th century, but the same happened in the 13th century. The 13th century in the city of Apollonia, very familiar for Wagner at least, the harbor city of Apollonia, where marble columns, huge marble columns from the Roman and Byzantine period, were cut in order to create huge tables for the Crusaders. You know, the Crusaders were used to have this common meal in a kind of the trapeza, the huge trapeza, and in the church, probably in the chapel of the city, the Crusader city of Apollonia. The Crusader city of Apollonia will also be in my talk a little bit later, because I will come back to this very interesting act and a very interesting activity in the 13th century. Now, as I said also in my presentation during the last week, I mentioned this playwright, the Swiss playwright Friedrich Dürrenmatt, and I come now back to this very nice quotation from one of his wonderful plays. It's called Romulus the Great. It's about the last emperor of the Roman Empire, Romulus Augustulus. And Romulus Augustus, in this play, the last emperor, he sells the heads of the portraits of the emperors, because he needs meat, eggs, and vegetables. He doesn't have enough food, so he sells them. And this is a very nice dialogue between actually a merchant from Sicily, Apollonius, who buys the whole bust from the collection, and he pays him 10 gold pieces for a lot. And the emperor says, "How comes you can't do it? It's our ancestors. It's this portrait." Okay, he says, it's not worth as an antique and has nothing to do with an historical judgment. It's just the money for the pieces. I brought this in order to show the heads. Where are the heads from the statues we have in the Near East? And I will show you a lot of statues without heads. So perhaps the heads are in somewhere in a shop in Sicily, bought by Apollonius from the last Roman emperor. But this just like a kind of a small, such a funny thing. And as I said, I like very much this playwright. Dürrenmatt has this pseudo-historical view of the world. So it is actually amazing. And now coming to the marble as an object, as a material, marble is actually a real symbol of luxury in the Greek and Roman world, and I'm not going into details about it. I just show you here the map of the most important marble quarries in the Mediterranean world. You can see them here: Greece, Turkey, Northern Africa, of course, number one, Carrara in Italy, but not too much marble in Italy itself. The whole Near East and North Africa, actually, beside the famous porphyry quarries in Egypt, they are actually without marble. So that's also an important point. I just brought you as a background here a picture from Carrara, another one from Naxos, just to show you the Roman and Greek marble, and some monuments like the Round Temple in Rome, the Athene Nike Temple in Athens, Ephesus, some buildings from Ephesus, showing your Leptis Magna there in the corner, and here in Ephesus, the Celsius Library. Some monuments, marble monuments used in the Mediterranean as a real reuse of real marble. I say real marble. It's not limestone. It is a very special crystallized metamorphic stone, which we know that we can polish it. It's white. It is gray. It has its different colors, and it's strong. It's a strong material. It's not like limestone. Now, I'm still in the overtura, I'm in the introduction, but in Palestine and in general in the Near East, as I have shown in the map also, there is no natural marble. And every stone, even the best limestone like this one, you have wonderful limestone, and it could be a little bit, when you polish it, you could be a little bit bright and white, but it's not marble, it's still limestone. Altogether with other stones used and known by us in from archaeological evidence, like the beach rock, the real grown-up beach rock. Here we have the sandstone from the coast. The whole Mediterranean coast actually is this stone, the sandstone. You have it in Greece, in Crete, in North Africa, and Palestine. We call it in Arabic term kurkar, which is a sandstone, very often used in the whole area of along the coast. Then the limestone, of course, the black, it's not so black in my picture, but it's black basalt, which is a volcanic stone mainly in the Syrian African rift, this area, this deep area between Syria and Africa, which the basalt, so black basalt stone, and the sandstone, very nice sandstone, but very soft one, in the area of the Judean desert and the Negev and the Dead Sea area. Here with a detail, an item coming from Masada, for example, you can see it, they could work it very nicely, but it's only if you cover it with a white lime, with a mortar, it becomes bright, it becomes like a stone, a very, very white stone, which is one of the mistakes made by Flavius Josephus as well. I will show you in a while. This in the background of the map of Palestine, the Near Eastern strip, the southern Levant, with this mainly, I brought here this map because it has the Roman road system and the cities marked here with different signs. So you can see that even the Caput Viarum, the Capita Viarum of Palestine, they had the marble because it was easier along the Roman roads to bring the marble from the main harbors, I mean Akko, Caesarea, Ashkelon, which are the main harbors in the area, to bring them up even to the higher hills in the country, but not too much. So everything had to be imported, of course. And then we have some huge store facilities in the cities of Palestine and in Lebanon also, in Beirut, for example, in Tyre, Sidon, but I bring the area which I'm very working with it. Caesarea, for example, it's a wonderful picture. You have white marble, you have the red porphyry or granite, the gray granite. You have the gray granite here as a detail from Apollonia. The wonderful porphyry statue, which I showed you in one of my presentations the last days. The porphyry statue, one of the most expensive statues we have in the land of Israel. From Caesarea, probably Hadrian, but you see here again, the head is lost, probably in one of the museums in the world, in Louvre or in some other museum. that is actually a kind of introduction to show you that there is no marble, and so we come to the historical development of the use of marble through different periods. Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is actually the first real construction boom in Palestine created by Herod the Great, the king, the Jewish king of Herod, the king of Christianity, as I have shown, the king of actually building or rebuilding the area as if it was Rome, as if it was Ephesus, as if it was Athens. He was close to everything happening in the world. You know, the huge building program against the background of the map, the Mediterranean development, Augustus the boss, so he had to copy Augustus and to make everything, as we know mainly from the main historian from this period, Flavius Josephus. Flavius Josephus, Bellum Judaicum and Antiquitates, and Flavius Josephus, is a wonderful historian, but as soon as he comes to Herod's buildings, he says everything was covered with marble. So marble, marmaron, Greek, because he wrote in Greek. So if we are going through the sites, just a couple of seconds, I take you through the sites, Caesarea, everything wonderfully built, with temples, with theater, with private palaces and so on. No marble. No marble. And I asking here, is it the local patriotic attitude? You use only the local stone. Could be only the local stone, but it doesn't fit into Herod's grand domain policy, because he wants to be like Rome. But he didn't use the marble. It was for him perhaps difficult to do it. In the whole Herodian building construction, building projects, there is massive use of classical styles. It's the Corinthian style. You see these wonderful decorations in Masada, in Herodium, in other places, even mentioned by Josephus here in Greek. It's the Corinthian Tropon, it's the Corinthian capital. He says it's the Corinthian capital, but he says everything is made of marble. This is marble, but this is not marble. Isn't it? It's not marble. This is the local sandstone. The same he says about Herodium, which was one of the main building projects of Herod the Great, building his own tomb, the mausoleum of Herod the Great here, which wonderful buildings. He says, Josephus, the monumental staircase consists of 200 steps of purest white marble. Now, if you are going to Herodium, you are walking along the ramp of the steps, no remain of marble, nothing. So that's a very, very interesting. The same in Paneon, another temple. Herod built a temple of white marble, he says. No marble. We tried some years ago together, I tried together with a very, very nice numismatic specialist, Ala Stein. Unfortunately, she passed away a couple of years ago. We tried to see what happened with Flavius Josephus. So we wrote an article about it, but just to make it short, it was probably a confusion on the one side. On the other side, also coming to the temple in Jerusalem, saying the temple in Jerusalem was also covered with marble. And I show you these details again, these wonderful details out of thousands of such items, which are all of them with limestone from Jerusalem. There is no marble. I said here, I tried to give the answer. I tried to give the answer to this question. So Josephus is living in Rome, because he was the general, was taken to Rome, he's living in Rome. Rome, in the second half of the 1st century AD, Rome was covered with marble. That was a marble city, because we know also from Suetonius, he said, Augustus got the city of mud brick or bricks, and he made of Rome, a city of marble. So, and it was marble, because we know Rome, the temples and everything in marble. So Flavius Josephus living in Rome, which was full of marble, first of all, he was actually very close to emphasize this construction by Herod the Great, saying it was marble. It was marble. It was white, the white stone marble. And I say, okay, I say here, Josephus, he has some fake news. It's fake news. It's very fashionable today, you know, to have fake news. This is real fake news. But he was not a bad guy, Josephus. And we, with Allerstein, we analyzed the text, and it seems that he used actually the white stone because the buildings were covered with white lime, with white mortar. So it had this impression as if it was marble, but in order not to make this, give these details, Josephus said, okay, we also had marble, not only Rome. We were very, very close also to have this marble. So there is no marble, beside one exception. And it comes from the city of Samaria in mid-Palestine. The city of Samaria, which was rebuilt by Herod the Great and renamed Samaria Sebaste in honor of Sebastos, Augustus himself. And here there is, they found, the Harvard University some 100 years ago, a wonderful statue, half naked, but a curious statue of perhaps an emperor, perhaps Herod himself, perhaps his friend Agrippa. It's not so important, but from the point of view of the artistic point of view, this statue belongs to the end of the 1st century, end of the beginning of the 1st century AD. So it's actually the Herodian time. And an analysis carried out by us at the institute, the Greek institute, Demokritos, together with two very nice, Tambakopoulos and Maniatis, two good friends of mine who are working together, specialists in physics and chemistry, and this isotopic and so on. It is from Carrara. This statue comes from Carrara, which is very important and interesting, and as an exception, because Herod the Great, building Samaria, he was in so good relationship with Rome, with the Roman emperor, that he was able to bring Carrara statue, perhaps a ready one or finished at the spot, to bring it here to Samaria Sebaste. But this is one piece of monumental marble in the whole building project, this rich building projects of Herod the Great. So that's actually an interesting point. And also Josephus, I like him very much, but in this case there were some fake news. Perhaps he was not so guilty about it, and he was trying actually to give a little bit a good description. Also based himself on the fact that his public, his audience in Rome, they didn't come to check what is going on in the Near East. So they believe him, so they believe the fake news. The real revolution in this case, in the use of marble and this material, this new material in the area, is in the Roman Imperial period, in the Roman Imperial time. And here we come to chapter 2, which belongs to Palestina Romana, the new named province of Syria Palestina after the wars, the two Jewish wars in the 1st century and the beginning of the 2nd century. And the introduction of what we call, in general, the Marmorstil. It's a German term used for marble style. It's actually the same, but I don't know why everybody used this German term from 100 years ago. No, it's very nice to have it. I had the occasion also by concluding my first stage of research on marble to write a book which is called Marble Studies, already 20 years ago in 1998. Which is up to today is one of the most important ones, without making of myself, not real news or fake news, but it's an attempt of describing the use of imported marble in one of the provinces of the Roman Empire. And meanwhile, there are some other attempts also, but not too much. There is one book which was published a couple of years ago by our Italian friends, Matthew, Italian friends from Venice, about Leptis Magna. They published some attempt and so. But coming back to Palestine and to the province of Palestine, Hadrian, the Emperor Hadrian, this Philo-Hellenic emperor, trying to bring everything into the Roman world, which was created by the Greek world, and of course the Roman world in that time, including not himself, but including his bronze statue, which was brought and was found actually excavated in the Jordan Valley. It was excavated near the city of Skytopolis, but of bronze, of course. But during this time, during the 2nd century, beginning with Hadrian actually, and mainly then after a little bit later, Antoninus Pius and so on, we have this massive marble import into the area, the whole Near East, and in general and in Palestine in particular. Again, the map you can see here, the map where for this time, all this, the sites named here, they have more or less marble construction, marble decoration, marble sculpture, marble statues, as it is also evident from the remains, from the destruction remains from the end of antiquity on the one side, like the harbor in Caesarea. So the whole area of the harbor of Caesarea became a huge marble yard, a marble market, where probably marble items were transferred also to other places in inland country. The isotopic analysis made for the marbles in Caesarea Maritima shows us different marble quarries, but the most important ones are, of course, the marble quarries concentrated around Proconnesos, but if also with some other marble objects, for example, from Pentelicon, from the Athenian marble quarries, Paros a little bit, Paros, but not so in this time, but mainly Proconnesos, the main marble area of marble quarry of the Mediterranean. If you are looking I give you just 1 or 2 slides of this huge monumental use of marble. One of the main monuments, for example, in Caesarea Maritima, is the theater, was the theater in Caesarea Maritima. The theater was built actually by Herod the Great, but again, the theater built by Herod the Great hasn't marble, no marble there. In the second phase of the theater, which was rebuilt at the end of the 2nd century, mainly during the reign of Septimius Severus, we see the massive use of marble. And I tell you something, the excavator of the theater, Antonio Frova from Milano in the 60s, 70s of the last century, he recorded more than 250 statues and sculptural remains in the theater, only in the theater of Caesarea. So what I'm showing you here is just a kind of collection, a small collection. Dionysos kind of guy, the Artemis Ephesia, some statues of young people, wonderfully decorated scrolls, architrave friezes from these wonderful scenephrons, the wonderful buildings in the area, and including about, I had this record of some 300 capitals, Corinthian capitals of different styles, from different phases in the 2nd century going up to the 3rd century AD. Everything brought here from the marble quarries in the Mediterranean, Proconnesos and others, as you know. And altogether with other sculptures, like, for example, the Demos, or a kind of seating hero in one of the main streets of Caesarea, the statue coming back, the Porphyry statue of Tyche, the very city goddess, which will be back in a while for another story here. Aphrodites, a lot of some 40 fragments of Aphrodites, probably from bathhouses, from Roman bathhouses, all over here from Caesarea. All of these are from Caesarea, and also, of course, other cities like Skytopolis, the main city, the capital of the area in the Jordan Valley, rebuilt after Pompey Gabinius in the 1st century BCE, but getting the huge development you see here, including the huge theater, bathhouse, streets, going up to the Temple Mount, which is here in this area, the old tell of Bechan, where the temple was, the Acropolis. All of them, or part of them, decorated with rich marble objects. First of all, again, the theater in the Near East, they becoming the most important monumental buildings in different areas. And in the theater in Bechan, here a view of the theater, you see the use of different kind of stones. By the way, the building itself is using basalt, the black basalt. The seats are of limestone, and the decoration is of colored marble, including porphyry and granite, and white marble. And also, and here we come to a very important point, the imitation in local limestone, by the way of interaction and of what's happening here. These people scrolls, you see the wonderful marble people scrolls coming from Proconnesos, also well analyzed by us, and other pieces of local limestone, imitating the stones which are coming from abroad. So it's a huge industry of this marble, using marble, and already some element of reusing marble in a late Roman latrina in the city, where you see the seats here, where they were sitting in the toilet, in the latrina. The seats are of fragments taken from the theater probably and cut in order to make them fit for this functional building we see here. That's happening in the city. Beside these, wonderful pieces of sculpture. One of them I had the opportunity to show you in another class, the Minerva from Beit Shan, another perhaps Aphrodite. There are some fragments of colossal statues. So we had somewhere in Beit Shan, Skytopolis, a colossal statue or a group of statues, as they were found in the store facilities of the University of Philadelphia. They were digging in the 30s, and the material is there. So I had the opportunity, together with the curator of the museum, Irene Romano, to publish this material in one of the colloques of the Roman sculpture, which is a kind of a picture, a wonderful picture, giving us this idea that the city of Beit Shan, which is, for Sao Paulo is nothing, 70 kilometers from the Mediterranean, but 70 kilometers going through hills and through difficult areas, by Roman roads, they brought the material there. There is no other way, because it comes from one of the harbor cities, crossing the area, crossing the road, and coming there. So if you want, you can have marble. If you are strong enough, you can have marble, and of course, they have it in these areas. Other fragments from Beit Shan, you see wonderful fragment, Tyche, of course, Tyche, Dionysos, Bacchus Dionysos, which is the main god of Beit Shan. By the way, his nurse, Nisa, is, according to the legend, she was born in the valley, in the Jordan Valley. So Dionysos is very, very popular, the most popular god in the area. And of course, the curious statues of emperors found, meanwhile, some 40, 50 statues of this kind. A wonderful find is this Aphrodite with Eros, today in the Israel Museum. You see, it's very nice. I will show you in a while where it was found. So you will see that it's nice today, but it was not so nice in antiquity, as it was reused in later periods. Another city, harbor city, very important one, because it's the south harbor on the coast, the city of Ascalon, not far from the Gaza Strip and not far from the Egyptian border. So it's on the way along the coast, along the Mediterranean coast, on the way to North Africa. So we think that through the harbor of Ascalon, pieces were left in the main building projects in Ascalon itself, which is the basilica, as you see the very nice figured pilasters. The best preserved is 360 meters high, 360 meters of a wonderful Victoria sitting on the globe and of Atlas. But this harbor city was also on the way to North Africa, and we have in common both objects and isotopic analysis between Ascalon and Leptis Magna. So it seems that on the way from Proconnesos, Aphrodisias, Asia Minor, on the way to Leptis Magna, some pieces were left here, or they were bought, because it was a huge city and a very developed city, and then they had their way further to Leptis Magna. Now, I'll give you just a few examples of this, the Roman cities having the marble. If you come to the origin of the marble, and you see, you have to understand this. I don't understand them. The specialists, they understand it. Yanis and the others, they do it and they explain it to me. but the most popular producer of marble, of white marble in the province of Roman Palestine is Proconnesos. And Proconnesos is important mainly for the Roman period, a little bit later, like the stable isotope analysis shows it. Of course, the white marble, because the others, they come from Sinai, Africa, from Egypt, and from other places as well. But the marble is from Proconnesos, and partly from Paros, partly marble from Paros, is very interestingly mentioned in very important sources for the Palestinian archaeology and Palestinian history, which are the late biblical sources, let's say. For example, the use of marble is described in the Book of Esther. Book of Esther is one of the late biblical books. It's described the Persian king's palace with marble pillars in the Hebrew text, Hebrew Aramaic text, and in the Greek version of the Bible, of the same book, did by the Septuagint, by the 70 sages in Egypt, in the second century BCE, it is translated into Parian marble. So the people at that time, they knew that Paros was one of the suppliers of marble. But coming back to Proconnesos, the Roman Empire says the text in the description of this description of Esther, of the Book of Esther, in the Talmud, in the late Roman Jewish source, which I mentioned several times, it says that the Roman Empire, they call it the wicked kingdom, you know, it's not nice place. They would use the marble which comes, in the text it says, from Perak on Sin in Aramaic. Perak on Sin is Proconnesos. So it's interesting to see that the interpretation of the marble coming from different parts in the Mediterranean is given by these sources which are from the time of the building, of which I'm showing you here, is coming from Proconnesos, and we have this very nice translation and interpretation in this text. Also, I had some occasion to a little bit to emphasize it in one of my publications in the past. So that's for the Roman Empire. You know, the flourishing Roman Empire, everything is actually being and organized as it was in the Roman Empire itself, not only in the Roman province of Palestine. Then we come to the end, to chapter 3, you know, chapter 3. We come to the end of the Roman Empire, the so-called pagan Roman Empire, beginning of the Christian Empire, Constantine the Great, you know, the Christian Empire. The beginning is okay. There is a kind of modus vivendi between the pagans and the Christians, and everything is doing well. But through the 4th century and maybe at the beginning of the 5th century, the things change a little bit. I would say not a little bit, even more than a little bit. And then I bring you just one quotation from the literature. It is a Christian writer, a historian, Marcus Diaconus, from the 5th century, which describes the Vita Porphyri. Porphyrius was the bishop of Gaza during that time, and here we have a kind of event happening, and probably, yes, happening because the destruction in these areas is visible in archaeological excavations, happening at the beginning of the 5th century, that the very famous temple of Zeus Marneon, this is the statue of Zeus Marneon as it is today in Istanbul, in the Archaeological Museum of Istanbul, in Turkey. The statue and the marble work of Marneon was changed into a pavement just for people to walk on the pavement and not to pay attention to the wonderful pagan luxury and everything connected with it. And this is probably a sign of a change, a big change happening in this area, and reusing marble, but I would say reusing marble in a bad sense, even if sometimes for building houses or building different complexes and building, even paving the roads, it's also functional. It's functional, and you don't pay attention to the real reason of the marble pieces themselves. One of the most important, I would say, most important aspects of this late Roman, Byzantine, Christian, and late antique use or reuse or misuse of marble is one of the signs is the nose breaking. nose breaking. You see every statue, even in museums, look at the museums, you will see the nose breaking here and here, everywhere nose breaking. But not only nose breaking, as it is emphasized by a Norwegian historian, Christensen, making and breaking the gods. You see, it's very, very nice title. He brought on the cover of his book, he brought this very nice Minerva portrait from Bechan, which she had probably a very nice nose, but now she's never more that the nose is gone. So we have this noses, mutilating faces, like it is in all of the sculptures. You see that something is cut from the statues themselves, in order to take them out of use, and in order, of course, to take them their wonderful shape and their wonderful impression they had in the Roman period, the Roman pagan period, including the destruction of genitals, and it was shown in one of the exhibitions in Pergamon in Berlin some years ago. It was an amazing exhibition showing this kind of destruction, but not taking the statues away. The statues were in the bathhouses, but if you come to take a bath as a Christian in the 4th century, you don't see a real sculpture, you see a broken sculpture. You see a sculpture without nose, without genitals, without anything which was part of this nature, this artistic view, as we said. The statue, one of the examples I brought just a couple of minutes ago, this wonderful Aphrodite with Eros, it was found in a foundation of a late Roman bath. You see here, upside down. This is the same statue. You see the wonderful statue you see here. After on the table in the Israel Museum, it was taken care by the specialist of this museum. But this was the original spot, the original finding place, the second original place, because somewhere in the past, this statue was part of the very nice decoration in one of the buildings of the bathhouses, and then it was put in the foundation, because it's finished. They don't like it anymore, it's finished. This is the one aspect. The other aspect, in order to make life a little bit more complicated and more, it's nice in my view, because nothing is black and white, so you have something, other views also. And the interesting thing is that in this same Christian Palestine, the Holy Land, in the later century, the 5th century and so on, you see, for example, the reuse, but the wonderful reuse of pieces of marble decoration, reused by a Christian governor who gives the order to build an Nymphaeum, which is a real pagan building, ektemelion, out of the foundations. So he rebuilt the Nymphaeum. You see the cross here, the cross. But the Nymphaeum, he built a Nymphaeum. He built a real pagan building. He rebuilt it in the city of Bechan. Probably that's a huge picture, but probably here in this area, because we know more or less where this Nymphaeum stood and where the piece was found. So you see, this is another aspect. A second aspect, which is, I would say, a comic aspect, but it is a real aspect. And we know it from other places as well. I just bring you 2 examples from Palestine, from Caesarea. Statues without heads, they were not buried always in foundations. They were reused as decoration, as pure decoration, in streets, in buildings. The statue, this famous Porphyry statue, was found fallen down in this street, which leads to a palace of a governor of the 5th century, a Christian governor of Caesarea. Caesarea was the capital of Provincia Palestina Prima. So it was a Christian governor, but he liked to see these pieces, probably already during this time, without head. But it was nice to have them. In Ephesus, for example, there is a whole street with this kind of statues, of reused statues, just for having fun a little bit, and to see it this way. Another statue, which I showed you before, the statue of the Taichi, was found in a building. It was found fallen down in this building, one of the first excavations in the 50s, some 70, 80 years ago. It was found this way, and an American scholar who excavated it, he proposed that it stood in the atrium, in the courtyard of the building, without head, broken, but it was a nice piece. I say, I'm asking together with you, is it empathy for classical art, or it's mocking of its message? Perhaps they are having fun. Okay, so look at this god. The god has no head, it has no genitals, there is nothing, no nose. I don't know, we don't know. But on the other side, I bring you some nice place which I found just a couple of months ago in a writing of homilies written by a guy, Bishop Jacob of Seruch in Syria. It was published by MOS in this journal. And you see here this debate in the Christian community in the 4th century or even the 5th century between people saying, I'm a Baptist Christian and I know that mimings in the theater are not so accepted. And I lose account of this. I laugh and do not believe, he asks. So I can laugh a little bit, have some fun. That doesn't mean that I don't believe. It's very, I think in the 5th century, it's a kind of a debate, and people asking things. The bishop answered, no, you can't go. It's very, very strict and so on. But on the other side, it exists. You see this polemic and this asking the question exists. On the other side, on the 3rd or 4th side, for example, Prudentius in circa 400, I mean the same year when in Gaza they destroyed the temples, he says, let the statues of work of great artists stand clean. Let them be our country's loveliest ornament. A Christian writer in the 5th century. I come to the Jewish side. The Jewish side is very interesting. It's one of the most quoted things from the Mishnah, from the book of the Mishnah, from around 200, 250 AD, that a rabbi in Akko is going into a bathhouse where probably such a nice statue of Aphrodite was there. So somebody comes to him and said to him, how comes, Rabbi, you can't go, it's forbidden. You know, the 2nd commandment, all this story, it's forbidden for you to see even such a statue. So he says, okay, it's very, very nice. I don't give answer in the bathhouse. So give me a break. I take a bath. Let's go outside, and then we will discuss a little bit. And then he says a very interesting thing, like that in the ornament in the Christian literature. Let's make a bathhouse an ornament for Aphrodite. But they say, let's make Aphrodite as an ornament for the bathhouse. It's an ornament for the bathhouse. I'm taking a bath, it's an ornament for the bathhouse. It's not a god which I treat there. It's an ornament for the bathhouse. So even if we look at these points, it could be that in the Christian, in Jewish eyes, in the same time when the things were destroyed, we have this kind of coexistence. So this is good for us because in this way, some of the statues they were saved. They came to us, even destroyed, but they stayed as an ornament. End of the Byzantine period, in the end of the 6th century, 7th century, around 7th century, the Muslim occupation of the Near East, and it started the Muslim occupation of North Africa, Spain. You see this kind of the wave, this big wave of the starting with 640. But I'm concentrating myself to some specific aspect in chapter 4 of the early Islamic era. And in the early Islamic era, we were discussing with somebody here about Ramle. You see the city of Ramle. You see the white mosque of the city of Ramle. The city of Ramle is the Ramel, the name, the Arabic Ramel is the city out of the virgin sand. That means, Ramel means sand. So it's the only one and the first Muslim foundation, urban foundation in the land of Palestine, in the Jund Palestine. It's called the area of Palestine, And then they built the White Mosque, and I give you just this example from Muqaddasi. Muqaddasi is a wonderful source from the 10th century. It is actually giving the whole area. And Muqaddasi tells us that the ruler the Muslim ruler came to the people of Lida, Lida, where the airport is, very close to Ramle, and they said to bring the columns of marble, the marble columns. Give us the marble columns. The people, the Christian community, revealed the columns to him, and they are indeed rugged and tall and beautiful. And they are included in the mosque in Ramle. So you see this kind of marble. The Arab leader, he likes the marble. He would like to have marble as well in his building. And this was also very nicely emphasized by Katia, your Brazilian colleague, Katia Citrin Silverman. She's my neighbor. We buy in the same supermarket near Tel Aviv. A very nice lady and a wonderful scholar. As to the reuse of columns, reuse of marble and so on, I bring you to my side, of course, to Yavne Yam. We have this wonderful Christian city in Yavne Yam, including the presence of the Empress Eudokia, the ex-Empress Eudokia. You know, Eudokia was one of the very famous divorced ladies in around 450. She left the emperor in Constantinople, and she pilgrimed to the Holy Land and stayed in the Holy Land. And she gave the money, she sponsored to build a huge complex in Yamniton Rimen, Ahuza de Yamnin, together with the bishop, Peter, called Peter the Iberian, who came from Georgia, the former Soviet Union, the Republic of not in the United States, Georgia, the Georgia Soviet Union. Peter the Iberian, who built, he was monophysitic, very interesting sect in Christianity. Yeah, only one for the whole Trinity. He built a church in the area which is today the Armenian quarter in Jerusalem. And there is a huge debate between the Greek Orthodox and the Armenian if he belongs to the Greek Orthodox Church or to the Armenian Church. But that's another point. Out of these buildings we had in Yavne Yam, marble columns, we have some 10 marble columns which were reused in the Muslim conquest at the beginning of the 7th century in order to put some incised inscriptions here. You see these Arabic letters here, the Arabic rose. It's not only letters, there are poems written and incised by first people, warriors, coming to the coast of Palestine in order to fight the attempts of the Christians to reconquer the country, mainly from Cyprus, coming from Cyprus, which remained Christian during the 7th, 8th century. And here we have these wonderful examples of poems. They wish to come to the site, and they do martyrdom, shahida in Arabic, and they wish to come to the site in order to fight the Christians and to show for the faith, for the Muslim faith, that they are here. So this is one of these reuses. It's for good, wonderful for us. See, together with my collaborator, my former student, Itamar Taxer, he wrote an article dealing with this transition between Byzantine, Christian, early Islamic, and it's not a real destruction because the columns, they were standing in the area. They were not destroyed. So people were coming and writing on these columns. It was a kind of, the Arabs, they called it sayara. It was a kind of tourism, coming to see places, but also writing this one. It's forbidden today. No, it's not so nice to we take our kids not to different places. Don't write your names on the wall and so on. But they did it. It's good for us. No, we have some evidence from this time. Then for the early Islamic period, we have the case, a very nice case, the Apollonia Arsuf case. Apollonia, as it is, we have a long story here, but I give you the short story. Apollonia was a wonderful city along the Mediterranean with a wonderful crusader castle from the 11th century up to the 13th century, with a very good tradition, even a pre-Roman tradition of use of marble from Pentelicon, from Penteli, from Athens, a kind of totem relief, a kind of mortuary relief. It's this size, but it's an evidence of this existence of some some colony, some people there in the area. I'm sorry for the computer here that doesn't like the Greek, so I'm sorry. But there is the Greek inscription, a Greek inscription from a church in Apollonia, a wonderful church, and all these wonderful capitals coming from Constantinople, from Proconnesos, bases, columns. You see these wonderful Proconnesian columns with the profile, you see, and everything emphasized by this inscription. But this church was totally demolished and reused by the Crusaders, by the Christian Crusaders. The Christian Crusaders reusing a Christian church from the Byzantine period, but the Christian church from the Byzantine period was not so important for them. More important was to build the fortress. And everything you see here, the columns, the door itself, everything reusing the material and cutting the pieces in order to build windows, doors, and everything you need for this kind of material. And here we have a huge bunch of this kind of material coming from Constantinople, this wonderful medallion capital. I think you have them in Sicily also, these Proconnesian capitals, and completely preserved until the time that they were cut again, cut in order to prepare them for other materials. And wonderful sculptural remains. For example, this very nice part of a body of some gods, somebody sitting on a rock, from also analyzed by us and pointing to this the wonderful quarries here in this case of Paros. Paros during this time as well being so popular. But this was okay. So they were reusing the material. But then we come, and they come also close to the end. Don't worry. So we come to April 26, 29, 1265. This is one of the very famous moments of the end of the Crusaders in the Holy Land, the end of the last Crusader period. For 200 years they were there. And this is the Mamluk leader coming from Egypt called Baybars. He putting a siege on Apollonia. Apollonia was one of the stronghold of the Crusaders in the country. So he's putting a siege here. This is the plan of the citadel again. And here you see these points, these black points here. These are the stones, the catapult stones thrown by the Mamluks on the city of the city. Were about 2,000 or something, this kind of stones thrown from some 200 meters away from outside the city, from here, from this part, on the city itself. So it resisted actually 3 days, but this was the big fight. These are the signs. The signs remain from the battle, from this famous battle. You see it's the burned area, it's fire everywhere. There were the stones, I said the stones which were found in the area itself, this catapult stone, 2,748 catapult stones. Out of them, and 1,243 arrowheads. So it's a huge chapter in the history of Apollonia. Part of the catapult stones were of limestone, and they were thrown from the area. This is my grandson as a scale for the but he likes the Crusaders, the cavaliers and so on. But the other point, the marble point, we come to the marble, we deal with marble. The local catapult stone factory. We found a factory producing stones in order to throw them back to the Crusaders. And what they had in Apollonia was not limestone, which was thrown from the area, but they had the marble. So this is a nice student of ours from some years ago trying to show us that they are cutting. But we have the pieces, we have the catapults, and a lot of marble catapult pieces. Out of these pieces, of course, I will show you a head, a portrait here, you see. This is a catapult stone. It was prepared in order to be thrown to the Mamluks. A catapult stone, it's similar to this very nice guy from Aphrodisias, 5th, 6th century, official from Aphrodisias. You see the same hairdress, the same style. And the laboratory result is for an interesting, very nice result from our friend Yanis and Dimitri. It comes from Aphrodisias. The marble is from Aphrodisias, from the site itself. So it's a sculpture which was in Apollonia, was ordered from Aphrodisias, from the famous, one of the famous quarries and workshops in Asia Minor, and it was prepared in order to be thrown on the Mamluks out of the city of Apollonia. It reminds us, as the description by Procopius of Caesarea, the history of wars, the Gothic wars, where large stones and statues and everything and heads of the were thrown on the enemy. It is about the Gothic invasion into the Castel San Angelo in Rome, to on the mausoleum of Hadrian, which became actually the Tower of Hadrian. It's called the Tower of Hadrian. It brings us close to what happened in Apollonia during that time. After chapter 4, I come to the finale. So we are in the finale of the concert. The finale is part of the First World War. I bring you very late to the First World War, when the hero is General Allenby, who is coming to Tel Aviv, is walking along the street called Allenby, going down to the Mediterranean. Allenby was the field marshal, the commander-in-chief of the campaign in Palestine against the Ottoman Empire. You know, the whole war in the Near East war against the Ottoman Empire. It's the end of the Ottoman Empire, the beginning of the era called the Atatürk era, which now the president of Turkey is putting an end to the Atatürk era as well. But that's another point. Here is the First World War. And here we have descriptions, of course, for this time, that they were organizing the army in north of Tel Aviv, what was then the beginning of Tel Aviv, but mainly Jaffa, in order to put hand on Jaffa and take the road, actually the Roman road, up to Jerusalem, because actually the final target was Jerusalem. So they had to organize themselves north of the river Yarkon, the river Yarkon crossing the area of Tel Aviv. And here we come to this description when the soldiers, as it happens in war, they were digging trenches in the area of Apollonia, in the area of the ancient city of Apollonia, which is a nice place. You have seen it's very on the sea, on the coast. You can oversee the coast. And they came across some marble columns which had graced the whole when Apollonia was in his heyday, said the document. But okay, it's a description here of the Scottish soldiers. They took these columns, and they put the columns at the 3 crossing points. It's military history. 3 crossing points on the Yarkon River. The Yarkon River is today, for you, it's nothing. You know, it's I don't know. It's twice the room. It's not nothing. But for that time, 1917, it was very hard to cross it. And 3 crossing points, they took the marble columns from Apollonia and they put them as a sign there, the British officer John Hill, and the city of Tel Aviv, which was at that time, 1990, it was 10 years old. The city of Tel Aviv was 10 years old. They had, during that time, enough money. Today they have not money for a metro, but then they had enough money. There is a nice document here from that time, in Hebrew, of course, to sign, to give the money in order to take the columns and to put them as a symbol of crossing the British army to Tel Aviv, to Yarkon, the Yarkon River, in order to have the victory. With inscription in Hebrew and in English, the night of 21st of December 1917, the 157th Brigade of the Scots, they crossed the river and they had the country in their hands from the Ottoman Empire. This is the final reuse of marble. And of course, today, you know, that's Tel Aviv, you see, Sao Paulo of Israel. It's a huge city, but the river Yarkon, this is the place where the pontoon bridge was built by the British, the same place. And on both sides, here, and another place, we have these monuments, these marble columns coming from the from the last end of glorious Apollonia, and it's probably this kind of, I would say, a kind of finale of the reuse of marble through history, as I was trying to show you here. So I would thank you very much. In Toda Rabba in Hebrew, obrigado, and thank you. This, by the way, is the wonderful Naxos Apollonas statue, marble, which was left in the side because when they tried to take it out, it broke. So it broke. So, and here I'm very proud of it, to standing on the navel of the statue. I'm in the middle of the statue. It's 12 meters high, the statue. So it's 6 meters here and 6 there. Okay, thank you very much.